What is going on YouTube? This is Acid Root. So I'm going to review the 8th album by Lil Wayne. Basically, this album is called I Am Not a Human Being, and it came out in the early fall of 2010. So Lil Wayne went to prison in early 2010, and he was there for most of that year, and that kind of sabotaged him from working on the Carter 4. Now, he had recorded a bunch of music throughout 2009 and 2010. The Carter 3 came out in 2008, and he dropped an album in early 2010 called Rebirth, which was kind of the rebirth of the new Lil Wayne that was supposed to manifest, and that was kind of like a rock rap type stuff. He was going to put out, it was originally going to be called the Carter 3, the Rebirth, but it got changed to just the Rebirth, and then there was just a bunch of stuff, a lot of heralded kind of stuff that went along with what was supposed to happen for the rollout for the Carter 4, but basically when he went to prison for most of 2010, it kind of botched the idea of Lil Wayne putting out the Carter 4 in 2010. That was a huge year. Drake and Nicki Minaj blew up that year. Gutta Gutta was dropping mixtapes. Young Money was blowing up with their We Are Young Money album from late 2009, so they had some hit singles from the early part of that year. So there was just a bunch of stuff that was going on. Lil Wayne was on top of the world throughout that particular time period, but I think one of the looming things that a lot of folks wanted was just Lil Wayne to follow up the massive success of the Carter 3, which sold 1 million copies in the first week, and put out the Carter 4, and that's kind of the concept. So Lil Wayne didn't do it while he was in prison, but he said he wanted to put out new tracks, not the stuff that he worked on before going to prison. So basically this album is composed of some of the songs that were originally intended for the Carter 4. So this album, you're basically getting the pre-prison, the Carter 4 with I Am Not a Human Being, which I think ultimately, like, I'm going to give this album a pretty rave score. I definitely think it is a highlight, but I'm kind of glad that it wasn't the Carter 4, because I do respect the cadence and the effort that went into the Carter 4 from late 2011. I feel like that album had a lot more consolidation, and Lil Wayne learned some new tricks on that. Yeah, Lil Wayne learned some new tricks on like the Carter 4 with like How to Love and She Will and some of those type ones. That he just tried a variety of different things, and even John was a particular different type of highlight for Lil Wayne. So it was just a pretty visceral album. I'm not sure if I would score the Carter 4 higher than this project, because I did like this project, as you'll see, quite a bit, but I would have to say, as far as that kind of goes, that this is pretty excellent. This continues like the prime format of Lil Wayne, that even despite the fact that he was in prison, and this is basically like No Ceilings era and We Are Young Money era Lil Wayne. So it's kind of more late 2009, early 2010 Lil Wayne, which is definitely when he was in prime form, minus the concept that he was kind of, I Am Not a Human Being is basically No Ceilings era and We Are Young Money era Lil Wayne. This with probably the paranoia of just having to go to prison for a while, because originally he was supposed to be in prison for a lot longer than just the 8, 9, or 10 months that he was in there. So it's just kind of the concept. Originally it was kind of like we didn't know how long he was going to wind up being gone. So it's just kind of one of those situations, kind of like what happened with Lil Boozy and Gucci Mane and some of those type people. But yeah, this is an excellent album. Kind of was just a compact kind of one. This kind of was more straightforward. Didn't quite have the glossy type singles and the overall kind of refurbishment and polish of like the Carter 3 or the Carter 4. But I feel like this is just a stark kind of raw and just shot in the arm version of Lil Wayne that just works excellently well. And I think this is a good continued cadence. This just continues the prime era Lil Wayne of what there was, especially in the early 2010s. So he didn't slip. There may not be a sheer velocity kind of single like Lollipop or like a Millie or like Mrs. Officer or Got Money or some of those type ones off the Carter 3, but I do feel like this is just kind of more of like a straightforward rap album from Lil Wayne. It does have Drake on here who helps, and it's kind of kept a more of like a Young Money and Cash Money type fold as far as that kind of goes. But I look after it, it is quite quality in terms of just how straightforward and just kind of skeletal this album kind of feels, but just how well it nails it. It's just kind of like when you get like a Nas album that just only has like one producer and no features and that type of stuff, or some rap album by an artist that just gives you a straightforward kind of no features, one producer type feel, something like that. So this kind of thing is just really, but I feel like this is quite the amalgamated project. So we'll get to the singles. The first single is I'm Single, and this is a song produced by Noah 40 Shabib, who's a hit producer and companion to like Drake. He's affiliated with Drake quite a bit, so it's pretty dope that Lil Wayne was able to secure like one of Drake's main producers and get such a hit song. It's a good one. It was a single off of No Ceilings. The mixtape was kind of a new song that was from that project from 2009. So I like how this song covered this particular project because it seemed like it was kind of like a teaser for the Carter 4, and it's just an overall hit. It's kind of like a left field kind of Lil Wayne song. It's just a very kind of groggy, blurred ladies track. Has very similar vibes to like a Drake song, and it just has a nice beat. It's just very kind of like um yeah, just for yeah, for the phrasing, it just kind of feels like a groggy, kind of slurred out, kind of hungover type tune, just for the ladies in that sort of sense. Like, hey, I'm single, I'm back out on the prowl, that type of stuff. This kind of the atmosphere is how some of that kind of goes. And it's just an overall nice kind of blurry one. Like another song that's like that I like that has very similar vibes to I'm Single is Unfortunate by Trey Songz. That's another Noah 40 Shabib type beat that was just really good. Some of those ones were pretty excellent in terms of that tune. So like I like Lil Wayne kind of being on some Drake type vibes. This is very much a song that I could basically have seen just Drake being on, and it would have been like another stock kind of So Far Gone or Thank Me Later type tune. But it's just interesting that Lil Wayne pulled off some of Drake's vibes and did it. So this is kind of like a nice, dreary, kind of groggy, lazy, kind of hungover, kind of Drake type song as far as that kind of goes. Good single. Right above it's the second single. This has Drake affiliation. He drops a verse on here. Basically, some Thank Me Later era type Drake as far as that kind of goes. It might have came out actually in 2009. It might have been before Thank Me Later, but it's just definitely kind of that same vibe. Drake was kind of holding down the fort in 2010 while Lil Wayne was in prison for most of that year. So it's just kind of another classic Drake and Lil Wayne type highlight. If you like some of the songs that they did off of So Far Gone and like briefly on Thank Me Later and some of that type stuff, it's just kind of the concept. It's just an overall, it's very much like a peppy kind of upbeat kind of vibe, very similar to like Bedrock, but this has more bravado about it. And it's just kind of a good club jam. I definitely like the concept of how that one kind of went. Um, this really kind of feels like a peppy kind of Young Money type tune. Some of the songs and kind of peppiness that kind of the Young Money album from 2009 kind of had, just has that similar kind of vibe. I do like that concept. It's a good hit single, has a nice hook on here, and it's just kind of a sprawling type tune. It has a lot of just right above it, just has like a real sprawling kind of hook on here. Just the energy is very contagious. I kind of like the vibe of how this song gets in your head and just kind of is contagious and that type of stuff. So it's just a good one. Yeah, there's 13 songs on here, and out of those 13 songs, I recommend to you 10. So I really wound up enjoying this album quite a bit. I'll go ahead and say this album's going to get a 10 out of 10. This is just stock Lil Wayne. This is prime era Lil Wayne. This definitely knocked it out the park. This is just kind of like a more skeletal version of like the Carter 4. Just a more straightforward and kind of shot in the arm version without all the radio gloss and promotion and bells and whistles and that type of stuff. But there are some songs on here that do kind of have like, single kind of pep that's just not quite as widespread. I feel like songs like I'm Single and right above it do kind of have some commercial kind of bop, but they're just kind of not like the sheer ambient kind of ubiquitousness that would be on the Carter 4. So it's just interesting that Lil Wayne, prior to going to prison, still had hit potential, but I just don't think it would have been the number ones and the top 15 singles that were on like the Carter 4. So it's just kind of the thing there. But yeah, there's 10 songs. So the 10 songs I recommend would be Gonorrhea, Hold Up, With You, I'm Single, Right Above It, Popular, Bill Gates, I Don't Like the Look of It, That Ain't Me, and What's Wrong with Them. A really kind of strong club song on here is Bill Gates. This is like a real strong, dusky kind of club gem. It's just a looming kind of social tune. This has like a real kind of loomed out, kind of overcast, kind of dark almost kind of club sounding type feel towards it. Just a real kind of strong one. I like the concept behind it. This kind of one that you would play more in like more kind of busier places as far as that kind of goes. I mean, it's definitely a club tune, but it's just not quite as hop and bop and quite as jovial. I feel like this one's just a little bit more like a sterner kind of more serious almost kind of club type tune. It's just kind of like, I mean, it can be jovial, but it just kind of has a little bit more elegance towards it. I do like the concept of that one. Gonorrhea is probably one of my favorite songs on this album. I continue to like this song. This one's just got a real kind of crisp and creepy kind of spook-like feel towards it. The beat is really kind of chirpy, and I just like the overall. I like the overall hit vibes of it. It's a local kind of house sounding type track, but it is a decent kind of mid club bop. This is more of like a local kind of house party Lil Wayne type tune. I feel like this is definitely one for more house party shindigs, but it can be like I would see in cases of being able to say that it's a pretty good mid club bop as far as that kind of goes. It just feels a lot more local compared to some of these, but I feel like Hold Up is another nice one. Hold Up has similarities to Gonorrhea. I feel like it's another bop just like that one. It's just a little bit more slurred and lively. I feel like the concept behind it is definitely one. If you've had a few drinks in your system or a little bit of smokage, that type of stuff, just stepping out and kind of liveliness, just kind of. I mean, Lil Wayne, of course, eviscerates these songs. So this is just kind of the concept, like I said, of getting like no ceilings and We Are Young Money era Lil Wayne just without the auto tune and that type of stuff. So it's basically like stark kind of raw Lil Wayne from 2009, early 2010, and it has like some nice evening venue kind of vibes. So this one is not local like Gonorrhea. I kind of feel like this one's more of like a stepping out for classic clubs back in the early 2010s just to kind of be able to hear this. This is kind of like typical Kobe Bryant era type music as far as that kind of goes, just back in the early 2010s. With You has Drake on here, and this is a pretty good highlight. This is a romantic kind of Chicas song with a lot more suave type feeling for stepping out. This you can tell just by this. It just kind of feels more like a wine and dine type tune, and just kind of a more glossy. I mean, if you are hanging out at the house, it just kind of has more glossy house type vibes. So I definitely like the concept of just getting. I mean, it could have been just like a club type joint and just a real kind of rugged type one, but I think that was covered pretty well. It's a little bit more like romanticized than I'm Single, where both of these are great songs for the ladies, but I feel like With You is just kind of a lot more of like a pompous kind of one and just like more elegant sounding as far as that kind of goes. Not pompous like it's a negative quality, but just kind of more blue blood sounding as far as that kind of goes. It's kind of a lot more restaurant fare as far as that kind of went. Like I talked about the two singles. Popular is a pretty good gem on here. This is definitely like a pop rap kind of gem. Definitely gives me some Young Money album type vibes, and it's just an overall nice promo type song. It's got some promo type pep. Definitely a good song to shop to and hit up like a strip mall and a shopping mall and buy some clothes. Some of those type moments. Go buy some shopping malls with the ladies, that type of stuff as far as that kind of goes. Just an overall kind of peppy one. It's interesting kind of get Lil Wayne on this type tune just because he kind of flirted with the it's kind of interesting to get Lil Wayne on a song like this because he flirted with the idea of it on the Young Money album, but it was kind of more the Young Money members that kind of were on these type songs. But it's just interesting kind of getting Lil Wayne on a more jovial kind of pop rap type tune because this is the kind of sound that was on pop rap back in the early 2010s. So it's very relevant sounding for that time. I don't like the look of it with Gutta Gutta was a song from Gutta Gutta's Back to Guttaville mixtape, which I reviewed back in early last year, so you can find that song. It's basically called Willy Wonka on that project, but it has a refurbished beat just because they couldn't get the clearance for it. But it's a real sparkly kind of night venue thriller. It's definitely like a lively gem and a good smoke song. This is just a real kind of lively club bop. Definitely like the vibes behind this one. Just a really nice one to step out and just be glitz and blitzed as hell as far as that kind of goes. Real good, nice one to kind of get turned up a bit and get cranked a little bit as far as that kind of goes. I like some of these Lil Wayne and Gutta Gutta songs. There need to be a few more of these like this song on here with some of them doing that some of that mixtape type vibe. That Ain't Me. That Ain't Me with Jay Sean's like a nice hit. It's surprising to get Lil Wayne to collaborate with Jay Sean again after Jay Sean hit Lil Wayne up for the song Down off of Jay Sean's 2009 album. This is a very busy sounding promo tune. Definitely feel like it's a social type song, but it's less club oriented and more stunt and floss type feels towards it. I definitely feel like this one, it's less club oriented and more stunt and floss type oriented. I feel like this is like a more glitzy and kind of promo type feel of it, where it's just kind of more dressed to impress, but it just kind of has more of like bravado and kind of more like snappy. And this kind of has more bravado and just kind of more gentleman type feel of it. I just like the concept of this being more of like a gentleman's kind of tune, and just that sort of concept. It's just a lot more promo sounding, dressed to impress, just kind of less club type, getting drinks, pounding shots, just a little bit more elegant and stunting type feel towards it in like a busy kind of sense. I like that song. Jay Sean suits the song real well. It's just a good kind of surprise collaboration that I just didn't remember them doing. So it's kind of a good one. I've owned this album for quite a while, and it's just not a song I referred back to, but I'm going to have to do that more. And then What's Wrong with Them is a nice song. What's Wrong with Them kind of has like a snazzy sound. The verse is very crunchy and kind of more litty sounding, just very glitzy type song as far as that kind of goes. It's a stepping out kind of song and it's kind of a club jam. It's kind of another surprising Lil Wayne song that I kind of forgot about and didn't realize as much. But Nicki Minaj does the hook on here, and it kind of almost in the hook at least feels like a Nicki Minaj kind of Pink Friday type tune. But it's just interesting that these kind of Nicki Minaj Lil Wayne collaborations is because when you think of like Lil Wayne and Drake, but you don't oftenly. I mean, it's just not quite as common, it seems like, as far as referring back to Nicki Minaj and Lil Wayne kind of collaboration. So it's good to kind of get this Nicki Minaj doing kind of like a Pink Friday type hook for Lil Wayne as far as that kind of goes, and just turning it into like a glitzy kind of snazzy kind of club type song. So it's good for that. So yeah, basically to talk about the three songs I didn't enjoy, which was just to talk about the three songs I didn't enjoy, which was just I Am Not a Human Being, the title track, and then YM Banger and YM Salute. So I didn't like I Am Not a Human Being, the title track, just because this was trying to be like a rock rap kind of tune and just didn't pull it off that well. It kind of sounded like something that like the Beastie Boys or like Run DMC would do, just in a way worse kind of format of that. This couldn't be pulled off quite as well. I think the concept, I would like to see Lil Wayne on like some new metal type stuff, but this was just a more kind of 80s oriented, bad orientation of that just didn't work that well. And then YM Banger was kind of a disappointing beat. That one was just kind of all over the place. It's just kind of trying to be looming and just kind of like ghoulish, I guess, in some sort of way, but it just didn't quite have enough interesting fare compared to some of these ones on here. I kind of feel like the title is somewhat uninteresting too. I feel like both YM Banger and YM Salute just don't have like an attractive kind of name title as far as trying to convey some of that, but it's just kind of the concept that the productions just didn't add up compared to Bill Gates and I'm Single and Right Above It and Popular, and I don't like the look of it. They're just are better produced type songs. This one just kind of felt like filler, and it's the same thing with YM Salute. This one, it's kind of the same thing with YM Salute. This one was trying to be like an alarming type beat, and it just didn't quite pull it off quite as well. I kind of felt like the concept of, I don't know, I just feel like these were kind of more filler type tunes compared to some of the stronger songs on here. They just didn't quite have quite as much. Maybe too many rappers on the song as well. It's just kind of more of like a posse song that just didn't have the execution lined up quite as well. But that's really only 3 songs out of 13. So me liking 10 songs out of 13, this album gets a 10 out of 10. It's really a hit. I feel like this could basically be like the street version or the pre. This could be like the street version of the pre version of the Carter 4. I like the concept behind it. It just has some good album cuts like Popular and Bill Gates, some good singles like Right Above It and I'm Single, another Drake highlight and ladies song with You, Gonorrhea and Hold Up are some nice club joints. I don't like the look of it. It's a real spastic kind of smoke jam. There's just some good moments on here as far as some of that kind of goes. This is a real great album. I do definitely feel the fury of this project, and it really is like a Martian type feel as far as how that kind of goes, just the quality of it. I mean, this is like compact Lil Wayne when some folks feel like Lil Wayne hasn't dropped classic albums. This is up there with the Carter 3. This is another prime Lil Wayne album. The Carter 3, the Carter 4, No Ceiling, some of those type projects. A lot of these are just excellent and they just are packed to the gills with hits. I was really surprised at just the sheer fury. I was just surprised by the sheer fury of how well Lil Wayne nailed these type songs. It's just good. The social score, I'll go ahead and give like a 10 also, just because both the singles did pretty well. They were quite popular, and there's plenty of stepping out kind of moments. Lil Wayne was definitely being social on this album. He has songs for the ladies, good looming and kind of sprawling club type joints, some good guest verses on here, even if it's more in-house. I just feel like the concept, there were some new things that were tried, like That Ain't Me and Popular, that worked pretty well, and What's Wrong with Them were just some different ones, just different styles from Lil Wayne I wasn't expecting. So he tried some new stuff that worked, did some social stuff, some smoke songs, some ladies songs, just overall great moments to kind of convey some of that. So it's definitely kind of the thing. So in terms of the future, like Lil Wayne dropped like a compilation greatest hits album back in like March or April with like a new song that has like a DMX kind of sample on there or something like that, and he's supposedly working on like I Am Not a Human Being 3 and the Carter 6 and like more mixtapes or something like that. I mean, maybe the mixtapes, he said recently that he may not do the mixtapes, but we'll see how that happens. But yeah, this is definitely prime era Lil Wayne. This is pretty much a classic from like the early 2010s, I would have to say, in terms of rap music.